And now, as part of this unitary executive theory, this administration is saying, no, you don't. If Trump says that the sky is green, you can't tell him it's blue. If Trump says that there's violent crime erupting on the streets in Portland, Oregon, who are you, federal judges, to gainsay the president of the United States? And so unless the Supreme Court really wants to write itself out of existence, it's going to have to take a stand for its constitutional power as an institution, or it will have none left. I don't believe that these are judges who want to render themselves irrelevant. And, 9 justices, we pretty much know where 2 of them stand on every issue. The question is, will there be a 5-justice majority in the center to protect the government against an uber-muscular presidency?
Reminder that Joyce's new book is Giving Up is Unforgivable, a manual for keeping a democracy, probably a follow-up to a lot of the questions and answers you're hearing. Stuart wants to know about, well, he says the administration has a clear pattern of behavior disregarding the law and judicial orders. Why would that not lead to greater scrutiny and less patience in recent cases by judges? And can you elaborate on the basis for your optimism that we can still rely on the courts to hold the Trump administration accountable?
This is such a great question, and I know it troubles so many of us. Let me just cut to the chase and say, district judges and courts of appeals judges across this country have been doing exactly what we want judges to do, calling the balls and strikes, looking at the evidence, looking at the law, making decisions that don't favor either the administration or people challenging the administration, but rather that determine the law and people's rights and move forward. And in a lot of cases, those judges have come out and have told the administration that their conduct is impermissible. And that has more to do with this administration than it does with the judges, right? We're all watching what's happening. And the question that we have, of course, is what will happen when some of these cases go to the Supreme Court. I checked my crystal ball with this Supreme Court somewhere around the time that they ruled that presidents could no longer be charged with crimes based on official conduct, which seems to me to be an enormous travesty of justice. So let me just say I have a lot of confidence in the lower courts, and I think that they deserve our support. It's tough to be a federal district judge in one of these cases, knowing that if you rule against the administration, you're going to be subjected to all sorts of crazy stuff. Hate mail, threats, anonymous deliveries of pizza. I don't know if y'all have seen that. Just all sorts of threatening, we know where you live kind of stuff. And it's a serious moment, and those judges deserve our support. We must not abandon that institution. That's really very much something that Trump and his cronies have been pushing for. And when they undercut the integrity of the judiciary, when they call for the impeachment of judges, that's partially for their base. But it's also to convince us to abandon that institution. And we must not do that. We need the courts.
Hi, I'm Pat Morrison, one of the hosts of America at a Crossroads. If you like this video, don't just watch. Head over to our website where you can subscribe for early access to new programs, see our upcoming schedules, and connect directly with our guests in our weekly live streams. Thank you for watching.
The Supreme Court is a very different kettle of fish. We've seen decisions that have been deeply disturbing. I'll tell you something that I can't say it gives me comfort, but it makes me curious to watch how many of these cases this term play out. The administration is now asking the Supreme Court to say that the courts don't have the ability to review decisions made by the executive branch. And judicial review is ingrained in our legal system. It's been there since Marbury versus Madison. Shortly after the country was formed, the courts have reiterated over time that the courts do have the ability to scrutinize many of the president's decisions to determine constitutional compliance. And now, as part of this unitary executive theory, this administration is saying, no, you don't. If Trump says that the sky is green, you can't tell him it's blue. If Trump says that there's violent crime erupting on the streets in Portland, Oregon, who are you, federal judges, to gainsay the president of the United States? And so unless the Supreme Court really wants to write itself out of existence, it's going to have to take a stand for its constitutional power as an institution, or it will have none left. I don't believe that these are judges who want to render themselves irrelevant. And, 9 justices, we pretty much know where 2 of them stand on every issue. The question is, will there be a 5 justice majority in the center to protect the government against an uber muscular presidency?
And yet, disturbingly, we've seen a Congress that has handed over its power on a silver platter to the White House, the Republican leadership. So I think it's natural that people might be concerned that the Supreme Court would be fine with doing the same.
My friend Dahlia Lithwick, who many of you I'm sure know, she's a Supreme Court analyst, and Dahlia characterizes Congress's behavior as supine. And I think that that's just absolutely what they've done. The majority in Congress, right? We know that there are Democratic representatives and senators who are working so hard for a resurgence. And this is where we come in. This is the power that we have. There will be an election, a midterm election next year. 1/3 of the senators in this country will be on the ballot, and every member of the House of Representatives will be on it. And our job is to make sure that we educate ourselves about candidates, that we make sure that we're registered and ready to vote, and that we restore the Congress to what we need it to be, an institution that will check this presidency when the president engages in an excessive use of power that violates the Constitution. It's essential that we restore the Congress. That's on us. We are the only people who can do that.
And we'll see you again here. We look forward to your support and your continued attention to the programs that you see right now on your screen that we're going to be offering through the end of the year, a very important year with a perhaps even more important year ahead of us in 2026. I'm Pat Morrison. Thanks on behalf of all of the team here for joining us.